Japanese language. Getting a place. Rush hour. Getting around at night. You can't use credit cards. Special food requirements. Medication. Hey guys and girls, it's Cathy Cat. Today we're gonna talk about 7 things foreigners struggle with when they come to Japan. Let's be prepared. Number 7. The Japanese language. Especially if you only come here for a short time, maybe just on a holiday, you might expect to be able to use your English wherever you go. It doesn't work like that. There are many places where Japanese language is the must go to, and you can't really switch to English. They will not understand any of your English, so you need to be prepared. I know for some of you who are only here for traveling for a short time, you don't have time to learn Japanese, then you need to still be prepared. Maybe bring a little book with you where you can just point to things, or have a Wi-Fi so you can actually translate sentences that you want to say on your phone and then show them to the staff. You don't want to get stuck here. Tokyo is working right now really hard to have more and more English out there, to have more people who speak English, but it's still not enough. And many people say, for the Olympics, it will not be enough. So be prepared that you have some kind of means of communicating with people that only speak Japanese with you. Number 6, getting a place. If you come here on a short trip, you might just book a place online and that might be fine. But if you're actually here for longer, say you're a student or you're actually working here, getting a place in Japan is a lot harder than you think it is. Many of the house owners are now in a higher age, so they never maybe even knew a foreigner. They don't have any foreign friends, which means they are very dispatched from foreigners. And those people tend to say, no foreigners are allowed to live in my house. So you might be going to a real estate agency. They will call ahead to the landlord, will say if the flat is open. They will say yes. They'll ask, hey, it's a foreigner who would like to live in your flat. They will say no. And the real estate agents will then apologize to the landlord and put the phone down. So it happened to me. It happens to every of my friends that they find a really great place to live in, but they can't live there because they don't want to have any foreigners live in that place. It's one of the things that makes me the saddest here in Japan, but unfortunately it's still an issue at this point in time. So that's one of the things that a lot of foreigners that I know struggle with. Number 5, rush hour. Japan's rush hour is on a whole new level. You might have heard the horror stories online, and they're true. Japanese rush hour is absolutely terrible. Driving on that rush hour, going on that rush hour to work is like torture for many people. If you have to actually go through rush hour because you're working, you can't avoid it. If you're a tourist and you're just visiting, avoid rush hour. You do yourself a favor, especially if you have luggage. You can't even go on the train with luggage during rush hour. If you do, people will really hate you for that. So if you're a tourist, just avoid it. If you're living here in Japan, will really struggle with riding rush hour, you just have to make do. Sometimes some people actually will get up earlier to miss the rush hour. They will walk or they will cycle there to actually avoid rush hour. Another thing that I can advise that goes especially out to the ladies. Many ladies prefer to actually go on the ladies only card. Depending on what kind of train you're riding on, it might be the first or the last card of the train. It does make a change, and even though you're a foreigner, you are not safe from train gropers and molesters on the train. It does happen, especially on the crowded trains, especially during rush hour. That's when people take advantage of, you not being able to move because it's so packed. So I can advise, especially young girls, and ladies, if you don't think you have the strength to fight back, go on the ladies only card. I'm sad this has to exist, but it does, and it is an issue. So yeah, we struggle with that. Number 4, getting around at night. In Munich, where I come from, we have at night buses. When the trains stop working, we have buses that take us to places. That's not the case in Tokyo. At a certain time at night, the trains will stop and all public services will stop. The only way of going around at night will be taxis, and they will actually charge you higher. So if you're used to maybe spending going out the night and then going home by some kind of public services, it's impossible. You need to take a cab, and the cabs are very expensive. So if you're not used to that, you need to really stash a little bit of cash to the side, or decide whether you go home very early or stay out the whole night and then go home with the first train in the morning. The first train in the morning comes fairly early, sometimes from 4:30 to 5 a.m., but the last train at night might be going as early as 11, depending where you're living, or 12. The very, very last train go just before 1 o'clock at night, and that's it. So be prepared for that. Don't get stuck somewhere out at night. can't use credit cards. At many places in Japan, even in Tokyo, you can't use credit cards. Now, if you're used to using credit cards, this might be an issue. I know that carrying a large wad of cash with you feels very uncomfortable if you come from a country, you've been pickpocketed before. Japan is generally very safe. Pickpockets are not a big issue. It could still happen. No one can vouch for that. But generally, what I always advise is have the credit card, but also have always some security cash with you. Many situations where I went to a place and I thought I could pay by cash with my Japanese bank account, and I could not. So in that situation, having some cash on the side just in case is good. Always have a little bit of cash with you. Saves you really, really embarrassing situations. Special food requirements. This is for everyone who's vegan, pescatarian, vegetarian, or who has food allergies and special food requirements. Japan doesn't really cater for that yet. That's a new thing. So if you have special food requirements, you really need to do some proper research. Especially if you're vegan, you really have to find vegan restaurants in order to find them. You can't just go into a restaurant and expect them to have something for you. To be honest, I once was in a department store on the top floor with 20 restaurants, and me and my vegetarian friend Gina went down the area, and I went into every restaurant, and before we sat down and asked them if they have anything for vegetarians, and they all turned us away. So that is a big issue. And if you have food allergies, we have actually done a video on this channel about it with someone who's very highly allergic to lactose, and you have to really, really make sure that you put in some research. Sometimes people will think a certain item is not included, and then it might be included. So you really, really need to be careful. Always carry an EpiPen with you just in case, and do your extra research. Also with you, when you buy a food item, if you don't speak Japanese, you're not be able to look on the back of it and read if it contains any nuts or similar things. Again, be very, very, very careful. This is a thing that many foreigners here struggle with very much. There's special dietary requirements. So please put in some extra research so you're safe when you come to Japan. Medication. Certain types of medicine that are normal in your country and that you can get over the counter will either not be available over the counter, or they will not be available at all. So for example, a migraine product that you might be getting in your country easily over the counter might actually be illegal here. So you might be very, very careful with the items you're bringing over. Sometimes small doses are allowed to be taken on the airplane with you if it's your daily medication. Sometimes you're not allowed to. There was a big issue a couple of years ago with a head of Toyota who got her general meds sent to her from the US, and she actually got into jail for that. So you need to be very careful what kind of meds you're taking with you, what kind of meds you are able to take with you, and what kind of meds you will be able to get in Japan. If you have special daily medication that you need to look that up before you come. Don't expect it to be here, because it might not be here, and it might be something similar, simple, like paracetamol, which is here in a different way. So always be super sure and check it before you come, because your health is the most important thing that you have. So you want to have a good time in Japan, so be sure that you're safe and healthy. These were 7 things foreigners struggle with in Tokyo. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and leave a big fat like on the way out. We're sending you out more things and facts about Tokyo and Japan out from here at Tokyo, out to you, wherever in the world you are. So please be sure to subscribe so you're part of the Ask Japanese team. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you soon for more interesting content here from Japan. Bye!